This is Keith Helwig from Cops Correction Videos. My last videos have been about promoting positivity. Well, I want to promote reality in this video. One of the things I want to discuss is, are things getting better? If one were to listen to the media narrative today, and the narrative being pushed by certain segments of our population, things are worse than they have ever been. Race relations are worse than they've ever been. Cops are worse than they've ever been. Unarmed black men being killed is worse than it's ever been. But the fact is it is not worse. In 2015, there were 34 unarmed black men killed by police. Now, this doesn't mean that the police went out and indiscriminately killed them. They were killed, many of them, during the commission of a crime. They were either trying to disarm the officer or they were harming someone else. And I'm sure there were some that were unjustly killed. And in those events, I hope the officers face the full wrath of the law. There's no justification for the misuse of power and abusing someone solely based on their race. Now, that was in 2015. There were 34 unarmed black men killed by police. Let's fast forward to 4 years later in 2019. There were 9 unarmed black men killed by police. And once again, I would say the majority of those were killed during the commission of a crime or in the preservation of someone else's life. Again, those that were killed with malicious intent by the police officer, those officers deserve to be punished. You know, the media narrative today is that police officers throughout the United States are the biggest group of racists that exists. And that is total BS. Police officers today are trained in racial sensitivity. They're trained how to deal with ethnic sensitivity, whether it's dealing with black people, whether it's dealing with Hmong, Hispanics, whomever. Police officers receive more training today on ethnic diversity, sexual diversity than ever before. But you don't hear that in the news. All you hear in the news are the officers that are doing the bad things, the officers that are harming people. 99% of officers are doing their job, whether they want to admit it or not just for a paycheck, but for altruistic reasons, because they feel that they can make a difference in the life of someone else. And when I use the term officer, I'm using the term generically to mean correctional officers and police officers. For some, it's just a job. For others, it's a calling. Now, are all correctional officers and police officers good? No, I'm not saying that. There are some bad ones, and they need to be weeded out. In my last video, I was speaking to a young black female protester, and I made the statement that police need to be better trained in dealing with minorities. And in many instances, I stand by that statement. But conversely, members of our community, whether they're black, brown, white, yellow, or red, need to understand that our country is a country of laws and rights. And it is the police officer's job to enforce those laws. It's the police officer's job to enforce those rights. Most police officers are out there in a conscientious manner enforcing those laws and those rights. So when you see a police officer, realize that that police officer is not there to harm you. You know, I grew up, a white man. I'm 6'4", 250-pound white man, so I can't begin to imagine what the plight of black Americans are. You know, I'm sure there are many instances where driving while black does occur. You know, I live a few miles away from the most segregated city in the country, which is Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I personally know officers that work on the north side of Milwaukee, which is a predominantly black section of Milwaukee, and they're good officers. They have good relationships with their community. They have good relationships with families in the community. They're good officers. The majority of officers are out doing their job, protecting the public, serving the public. To think otherwise is to simply feed into the false narrative that the media perpetuates simply for ratings. Do injustices occur? Most certainly. Do the majority of police officers go out every day and do unrecognized acts of goodness? Most assuredly. So when you think of a police officer, remember that next time you talk to them. They aren't going to indiscriminately hurt you regardless of your color, regardless of what the media narrative feeds you. Most police officers are good, honest people. Until next time, this is Keith Helwig. Stay safe and watch your back.